everyone, I'm Marcy with Murals by Marcy, and today I'm working on making over our music room. And I thought I'd shoot a video for you so you can see how all it takes is paint and a few inexpensive tricks to have it go from this dated look to a more modern feel. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is clear out as much of this stuff as possible. And for this, I'm going to need some help. I'm all ready to paint, but before I do, I feel like I kind of have to explain why this room was painted so formal in the first place. And that's because when we first moved here 12 years ago, we didn't use this room as a music room, we used it as an office. And at the time we had a very regal looking desk, and of course the painting trend was the Tuscan look back then, so it was all your reds, your golds, your olive greens. So I used that as an opportunity to experiment with paint and glaze to give the look of leather on this wall. And then after I did that, I took it a step further. I had my husband build this faux wainscoting for me. And then I continued on doing these faux panels that took me, believe it or not, 3 days of taping and measuring and trying to do all this by hand. So it was so much work. So even though years later when it became our music room and then paint trends changed and the world sort of turned gray, I did end up painting all the rest of my house gray, but I kept putting off this room. So now finally we're at that point where it's time to paint. Now I want to show you the color that I'm going to be painting it. I absolutely love it. Now I'm not going lighter, I'm not going gray in here because this one room is the only room in my house where I can afford to do something bold. So here it is. This is called Midnight in the Tropics by Bear. Just like there are trends with the clothes that we wear, styles come and go with our homes as well. So basically we went from the Tuscan look to the farmhouse look, and now we're starting to see the beginnings of the mid-century modern look, which is why I'm going with such a deep, rich color here. Everyone has their own way of doing things, but me personally, I always do my cutting first. And then when I'm all done with my cutting, then I do my rolling. I just think it's the harder part, so you get it done, over and done with. And rolling is really easy. So once you start rolling, you're pretty much done. But it's the cutting, the more detailed stuff that really shows if your paint job is more professional or not. All about minimalism, which I think is great. I'm just not very good at it. It's not to say that I have a lot of clutter everywhere, but I do like looking at my walls and seeing things on there that I absolutely love or that are meaningful to me. Now that said, I decided I was going to do a gallery wall with nothing but photos of all the musicians in my family. Did I mention my family loves music? It's a bit of an understatement, actually. I mean, I've got pictures of my husband, my daughter, my dad, my nephews, my brothers, my sisters. It's pretty much everyone, so I needed a whole lot of frames. I went to Goodwill and I bought some in all different shapes and sizes, and I painted them all black so they would be uniform. Then I found a couple of extra frames, and these ones are wood, and I just thought they were too beautiful to paint over. So I kept the frames as is and instead took some cardstock and I just painted some artwork on them. This one I painted Then Sings My Soul, which I thought was beautiful. So now what I'm going to do is I have this giant piece of white paper, and I'm going to take these pictures and just kind of play around with them, move them around and see how I want them to look. There really is no right or wrong way to do this, but I do know that I just don't want it to look too symmetrical. I want it to look like not a whole lot of thought went into it, even though a lot of thought is going into it, if that makes any sense. And once I've got it down, I'm just going to take a pencil and outline around it, and then this paper becomes a template, which I then hold up against the wall and then hammer into the wall without making too many extra holes into the wall by mistake. Now for the other walls, I'm going to put up some artwork that my husband and I bought on a recent trip to New Orleans. We walked into a gallery and I just fell in love with this artwork because of the beautiful colors. This is Trombone Shorty, and the other one you'll recognize who it is. It is Louis Armstrong. But what I did is I had my husband build some custom frames for this artwork because it's a great way to save money. This was going to cost us about $200 a piece just to have each one of these framed. Instead, my husband spent about $20 in materials and just built them to size, and I'm really happy with the way they turned out. Now, I do have a tutorial on how to build a basic frame, and I'll go ahead and provide a link for that. Finally, I bought 3 of these frames pretty inexpensively at Walmart, and I thought it would be fun if I let my daughter, my husband, and myself all pick an album that sort of represents our musical taste, and we could put it on there, and then I'm going to place the 3 above the piano in the music room. Now, this is basically it. I know that it does seem like a lot, but again, these are 3 different walls. You'll notice that each of these squares has a little dot marking the exact spot where the nail is supposed to go. That's because I took each one of my frames, flipped it onto its backside, and measured out where the hook is. Then I transferred that directly onto my template. So now I'm ready to hammer in those nails. Here's another tip when hanging individual frames. Just use painter's tape. All you need to do is run the tape along the back side of the frame directly over where the hooks go. And once you can feel that with your finger, mark those spots with a pen. Now all you have to do is peel off the tape and place it on the wall. Just make sure that your tape is level before you go hammering any nails. Now, the beautiful thing about painter's tape is, if it's not level, all you have to do is lift it up and keep moving it until you get it right. I want to incorporate some brass elements into this makeover. So one of the first places I went to was a thrift store where I not only found this inexpensive brass mirror, I found these cloth dinner napkins for just 99 cents. You can see that they're brand new and the color is absolutely perfect. It just matches beautifully. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use them to cover an old pillow. Now, this is the perfect easy sew project if you're a beginner. And for me, it's also an opportunity to show off my antique sewing machine. My music room makeover is done, but before I show you what it looks like now, let's take a quick look at what it looked like before. You can see it was definitely in need of an update. And here's the music room now. It's not entirely mid-century modern, but that's because you can't put form before function, and everything you see in here gets used. Only now we'll enjoy using it a whole lot more now that we're in this kind of hip feeling music room. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for checking it out. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and follow me at Murals by Marcy on Facebook and muralsbymarcy.com. I have a lot more projects on there that don't necessarily make it onto video. Thanks for watching.